Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the coronavirus, specifically COVID-19, and how it's going to affect work forever. Alright, welcome back. Please be sure to like and subscribe. If this video got 1,000 likes, it wouldn't mean much to you, but it would mean the world to me. Be sure to share this video if you really like it. Remember that this channel doesn't do a Patreon, instead we sell our digital products down below. If you are cooped up in your house, the best thing you can do is further your education, and we have a ton of education products down below. Again, if we get a lot of buyers to buy our products below, the more content we can make. Alright, so let's talk about the coronavirus. Now, the coronavirus that is going around today, that is COVID-19, is pretty substantial. It's more infectious than the flu, and it has a severe mortality rate for people that are over 60. Now, if you're under 50, then chances are this is not going to be that big of a problem, although some younger people are dying. But most of the people that are affected have underlying health conditions. So as a result, the stock market is going down and companies are forcing their employees to work from home. Now, I've worked from home for many years, and personally, I don't really want to do it again. And one of the reasons I don't want to do it is because it's hard to separate life from work. But more on that later. Let's talk about the broad implications of a lot of people working from home. Now, there's a lot of implications because this particular economy is built off of a lot of different fundamentals than previous economies. So one of the things about the economy in the last 10 years is the idea of cheap money. Now, there has been a lot of VC investment in pretty much any idea that would require any kind of investment. If you had a good idea, chances are you would be able to get investment of some kind. Now, there are lots of companies out there that had really good ideas but didn't end up panning out. This is just business. But there's a lot of other companies that didn't really have a good idea but somehow managed to get millions and millions of dollars of funding. And these people didn't have really good business acumen, and they're still around today because they've been hiring more money. So because they didn't have business acumen and their idea wasn't pretty good, plus they had a ton of money, they would hire people on something other than fundamentals. When you hire someone, they have to be good at what they do and they have to be important. The only reason that a small business is going to hire someone is if that position is absolutely important to the business. Now, a lot of these companies have been hiring people just for the sake of hiring people, to make it look better, to raise more money. So it's very possible that a company in 2010 would raise $1 million, and then a few years later would raise 5, and then maybe 25, and then 100 a few years later. And it would kick the can down the road on whether that business is actually profitable or even viable. Now, it's crazy to think that there are a lot of companies out there that are not profitable even though they've received 100, 200, or even 300 million in funding. A good example of this is Boosted Boards. Now, Boosted Boards received 70 million in funding and it went bankrupt. Now, Boosted Boards is not a software as a service, and it is a physical product, and furthermore, it's a more niche physical product, but it can show you how the VC model can get things wrong. Now, there's a lot of software as a service models that have worked out really well, but there's others that really haven't. Now, the interesting thing about a software as a service model is that it is cyclical in terms of its business cycle. If you think about it, if you have a software as a service product and it's supposed to target business, you can target businesses that are getting a lot of money and they have a lot of money to spend from other VC firms. Now, you can see that if you had a business-to-business or B2B software as a service solution that targeted businesses that got a lot of funding, you can see how that would really work out in the last 10 years. Now, it looks like money is drying up now, and what's going to happen to the economy is pretty much anybody's guess. I bet that a lot of these companies are going to go under because they don't have very good products in the first place, which leads me down to the coronavirus and how it's going to affect work. Now, a lot of these companies that have received millions of dollars in funding overhire the personnel, meaning that there are more people than needed to actually make it function. In fact, I've seen dinky little startups hire as much as 500 people. This is not a good way to make money. I run a business. I only hire someone if they are absolutely needed and if I obviously can afford it, because Mammoth Interactive has not received any funding. So as a result, there's a lot of people out there doing frivolous jobs and getting paid a lot of money to do it. This working from home situation is probably going to change that. The people whose jobs are not 100% important are probably going to be let go. And those jobs are never going to enter the economy ever again because they weren't needed in the first place. In fact, if anything, there is an employment bubble in terms of these jobs. Now, how do you know personally that your job is important and important to the company? Now, there's a lot of really big companies out there that are kind of exempt from this, but the general litmus test is that if you were to not show up for 1 to 3 months, would the company really survive? And if the answer is yes, then you probably need to worry. So even if you're an account manager or something that's non-technical, if you don't show up, will the business fail? Now, this has happened many times before, most notably in the 2008 financial crisis. I remember the 2000s very well. It was very easy to find a job. In fact, it seemed like everyone was mostly employed. When 2009 hit, all those jobs frankly disappeared, and I think the same thing could happen here. What companies are going to do is they're going to say, well, all these people are working from home. We don't need this chunk. Because if economic activity is slowing down, which is the very definition of a recession, then you're going to have to cut your workforce. It's just what you have to do. So as a result, there's going to be a lot of people that are unemployed, and I don't think those jobs are going to ever come back. In fact, it's one of the many bubbles that has been created over the last few years. So when you're working from home, you have to be almost extra diligent to make sure that you are important. Now, you can't be overly ambitious and overly chatty because that's not a good thing to do. But what you can do is make sure that your job is irreplaceable, and you have to make sure that this happens. Now, another thing that's really important, or maybe the topic for another video, is you have to have really good soft skills from working from home. So I've done this for many years and I've fallen into many holes, and I should probably make a whole video about that. So stay tuned to this channel. Be sure to like and subscribe for more awesome videos on how to be successful. So as we discussed, jobs that aren't hyper practical are probably not going to come back ever again. And the reason for this is that if economic activity is going to decline, then there's going to be much less investment. I remember starting a business in 2008 and looking how much investment that happened in 2008 and 2009 compared to the previous 3 years. It was absolutely minuscule. So the same thing is going to happen. You have to have a really dynamite idea with a really dynamite team and a fairly polished product before you get VC capital. Because capital is going to become harder to come by, then jobs are going to become more scarce. And because jobs are going to be more scarce, again, it's this whole feedback loop that drives the economy down. Some of the numbers are incredibly dire. So I saw one analyst saying that there's going to be negative GDP growth this quarter, and the next quarter it's going to be a lot worse. And this makes sense. If the coronavirus continues to go on and governments tend to not deal with the situation, then it can be much worse. Now, humans tend to learn from their mistakes part of the time. You've all heard that phrase, history repeats itself. I think history more or less rhymes. Oftentimes, same things happen, but a little bit differently. And in this case, there already have been lots of pandemics. But thanks to vaccinations, we haven't really had a large pandemic other than the swine flu pandemic. And I actually got that. And even the swine flu pandemic paled in comparison to other pandemics in the past. Now, this is a really good wake-up call. In fact, you can watch Bill Gates' TED Talks from 4 years ago, and it's so on point that it could have been made last week and still be relevant. He tells everyone exactly what's going to happen, and believe it or not, it folded out in this exact way. Now, the question is once this coronavirus does pass, and it will pass, will humans learn from their mistakes? And the answer, I think, is absolutely. I think the wet markets in China are probably going to disappear after this, and there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on this problem because it's already wreaking so much havoc on a virus that is fairly deadly, but not as deadly as it could be. Now remember that MERS killed 60% of people. This only kills maybe 1 to 2. So it can absolutely be a lot worse. Now, with lots of countries going into lockdown and preparing for a disaster when they might not normally prepare for a disaster, the systems are going to be put in place to get people to stop the spread of a contagion. So that means businesses in the future are going to have a policy in place that allows people to work from home. And I think this is a good thing because personally, I think it's good to work home maybe one day of the week or a few days a month. Now that's a topic for another time, but if you're working at, let's say, a tech company or a business and your job isn't easily done from home, then it might be worrying to you because in this situation where a pandemic happens, then you might be laid off for a brief period of time. So in the future, you want to make sure that your job can be done at home, and you want to make sure that your job is as foolproof as possible. Now, this may be the case that every so often there might be a lockdown situation. There could be a major flu, or there could be another coronavirus, or there could be another virus altogether that is under everybody's radar. Now, as a result of this coronavirus, I bet you a ton of research is going to go into coronaviruses. Now, if you look at a lot of the videos that predicted this, like the Bill Gates one, they often talk about a flu. And the flu has been usually the one type of virus that people have been saying that is going to cause this kind of pandemic. Now, some experts have said that it could be a coronavirus, but it was rather unlikely. I don't think that even the smartest experts predicted that a coronavirus could do such damage as this coronavirus is doing. So as a result, we might have a lot of work done on the coronavirus. In fact, that yearly flu vaccine that everybody gets might contain strains of a coronavirus going forward. That way, we actually cover our bases in terms of another pandemic that might happen. Now, the flu is a real problem because, like the coronavirus, it can mutate really quickly and get out of control really quickly, like the swine flu epidemic. Now, I personally had swine flu and I was out for 6 weeks. It was really tough. In fact, I got bronchitis and I went to the emergency room like 3 times. Now, it was a very tough 6 weeks, and once I was better, I really did not want to do that again. So I made sure that I got my flu vaccine every year. Now, there isn't a good vaccine for coronaviruses, but I bet you that because this coronavirus is doing so much damage, that there's going to be a ton of work being put into the coronavirus. This is not only cures, but vaccines as well. Now, there's a lot of other viruses that we need to be worried about, and what would be smart is if we put money into that today. So I always say that you should have more than one source of income, because if you lose your job, then you have no income. So you should at least have some kind of side hustle. Now, in Bill Gates' talk, he talks about having a medical corps. Now, this is using the efficiency of the military that is being able to deploy everywhere and have the medical knowledge. Now, if you like doing this kind of work, then you could possibly be on the medical corps reserves. And what that means is that during a situation like this, you will be able to be employed. Now, if your job is a little bit precarious, then perhaps being in these medical corps reserves is a good idea. Now, of course, this is not for everyone. Personally, I would not be good at this job, but I know that there are lots of people out there that might want to do this. Now, there's lots of reasons to join something like this. You get to meet people, you get to be educated, you get to learn new things, and during a time of crisis, you're not going to be broke. Because things like this can and will happen again, and that's one thing that can work. Now, a lot of people who watch this channel are programmers, and programmers are in a unique situation. Now, if you want to combine your programming skills with medicine, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Because when you work with medicine, you can't go down the Theranos road. Working with medicine and medical equipment takes a lot of extra due diligence than just simply building a website. Now, there's a lot of MRI machines and a lot of diagnostic machines that obviously need code. And the code to make these machines work is a lot different than, let's say, making a simple website work or making a software as a service. It's not just the code itself, it's the way the code is actually built. There needs to be a lot of extra foolproof systems that work to a very high degree of accuracy. Lots of times in software as a service, or what has been basically driving the economy and basically employing programmers for the last 10 years, is not really that robust. We're all taught to have really clean code and really robust code when we go to school, but in a lot of businesses, and specifically businesses that need to hit a target, oftentimes that code gets sloppy. And I've been down that road too. I've been down the road where something needs to be out and I need to get it done and the code just becomes sloppy. You can't do that with medical equipment. It has to be done very well to a high degree of accuracy because people's health is on the line. Now, if you want to go down that road, that is really good, but there is a lot of extra school that you need to do, and you have to remember that the pace of this work is not the same as the startup work that is normally being done. Oftentimes, it can take a lot of time just to build very basic programs. So let's recap this video. COVID-19 is absolutely going to change the way companies operate. It's going to make sure that whoever they hire, they're going to have to hire someone who's really important. Also, that person might have to be able to work from home in the case of a future pandemic. Now, hopefully, science and governments wise up to the fact that this can and will happen again, and that lots of advancements, not only in policy, but in science, are made as a result of this situation. I really hope that this is going to be the case. So you need to make sure that your job is secured. Now, the best way to succeed in any economy is to learn to code. Not only is it always in demand, but you can also work from home at any given time. And this is something that's really important. So if you really like this channel, please buy my products down below. We teach everything from web development to machine learning to Photoshop to game development to 3D modeling. Our courses are some of the best in the industry, and if you really like this channel, you can subscribe to Mammoth Interactive's huge library of content. We have over 1,800 hours of content that you can consume today for a very low price. We release 20 to 60 hours of fresh new content per month. It is the best deal for e-learning. Now, if you're already a subscriber, thank you very much. Not only does it keep this YouTube channel going, it allows us to make better content on our e-learning platform. Also, please be sure to like and subscribe. The more likes and subscriptions we get, the more content we can make. It might not mean a lot to you, but if this video got 1,000 likes, it would mean a lot to me. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in another video.